Frugal Friday to you. Today's video is all about MAC lipstick dupes that you can find in the drugstore. Now I started out this video with only 6 dupes, and then I had myself a little swatching party last night with Inky, although he got bored of it rather quickly, and I ended up finding 12. I don't know how that happened. I did a video just like this back in August, so it's been a little while. So if you're interested in seeing more MAC lipstick dupes that you can find in the drugstore, I will have that video linked for you down below also. And to keep things fun and interesting and have you guessing throughout the video, I am wearing a MAC lipstick on either my top lip or my bottom lip, and I'm wearing its dupe on either my top lip or my bottom lip. So one of these lips is MAC and one of these lips is drugstore. You tell me which one you think is which, and I'll let you know at the end of the video if you're right. First dupe I have to share with you is one for MAC's Twig, and its counterpart that you will find in the drugstore comes from Maybelline, and it is in Touch of Spice. When I first purchased Touch of Spice and I applied it, I sat there and thought to myself, boy, this reminds me of a lipstick I already have. And I went into my collection and found out that Twig was a next to near identical dupe of it. Very close. I would say that Touch of Spice has a tiny bit more burgundy in the formula than Twig does. But other than that, very close dupe. MAC's Costa Chic. This is one I had not expected to find a dupe for. It was one of those that I was going through last night. And I swatched it randomly and I said, my gosh, I already have this color. And it turns out I did, in NYX's Margarita. Color-wise, these two are an identical match. It's a really intense reddish orange coral shade. And the only real difference I could see between these two is the finish. It's slightly off. And if you really study them, Margarita is a little bit shinier compared to Costa Chic, but that's it. For MAC's Lovelorn, this is one of my most favorite colors. I have been wearing it a lot lately since it's spring. It's such a beautiful light pink. And I had no intentions of finding a dupe for this one, but I did. And its dupe comes from Rimmel in the shade Pink Blush. Lovelorn is just a tinge darker compared to Pink Blush, but not by much. It's so subtle that if you were going to wear one in place of the other, nobody would really be able to tell. I mean, honestly, somebody would have to be a makeup expert and come up to you and say, that's not really Lovelorn. Next dupe is one that I could have sworn I have talked about before. Maybe I have, I don't know, but I couldn't find any mention of it in the past video that I did on this topic. So this dupe is for MAC's Shy Girl, and it comes from the e.l.f. lipstick in Party in the Buff. I originally wanted to compare this e.l.f. color to Pure Zen from MAC, but it was a little bit brighter and more orange compared to Pure Zen, so it matches Shy Girl a little bit more closely. Shy Girl is a touch darker compared to the e.l.f. lipstick, but you could get away with the e.l.f. lipstick in place of Shy Girl. MAC's Show Orchid, and this is quite possibly one of my, actually I can say positively, one of my most favorite colors from MAC, and its drugstore counterpart comes from CoverGirl in the shade Spellbound. So extremely close in color, it's ridiculous. The only real difference that I could detect between these two is that Spellbound has a little bit more red tones in it compared to Show Orchid. Next up is MAC's Craving, and its drugstore counterpart is Maybelline's Bit of Berry, and these two are twins. I mean, identical twins. They're not fraternal twins at all. They look exactly alike and are so hard to tell apart, both in finish and in color. MAC's Girl About Town, and this is another one of those bright fuchsia colors that is simply divine for spring. Its drugstore counterpart comes from Rimmel in the shade Back to Fuchsia. Huge props to Rimmel there for the Back to the Future reference. Very creatively named. No real difference between these two colors. They are identical both in color and in finish. MAC's Relentlessly Red, and this is a matte orange-red shade. I believe it was limited edition from their Retro Matte collection, but I could be wrong. Hey, I've been wrong before. I did not expect to find a dupe at all, but I did, and it comes from Milani in the shade Flamingo Pose. The finishes between these two are different. Relentlessly Red is matte, and Flamingo Pose is more of your glossy shiny lipstick, but you could very easily fix that by applying a translucent powder over your lips, and that would give you more of the matte finish of Relentlessly Red. The only real color difference I could see between these two is that Flamingo Pose has a little bit more orange in the formula, but it's so hard to detect. You have to sit there and really study that color to be able to see it. So you can wear one in place of the other and nobody's going to be able to tell. This next one is an honorable mention because I don't feel like it's exact dead on in terms of a dupe, but I thought it would be worth mentioning just in case anybody is looking for a dupe for MAC's Velvet Teddy. The drugstore comparable shade comes from Rimmel's line and it is Kate number 14. Now I'm mentioning this one as an honorable mention because if you look at these two colors, you'll see that Velvet Teddy has these red undertones that are lacking in the Rimmel color. But they are so close that if you were going to wear one in place of the other, it would be really hard to tell which one is which. So in case you've been looking for a dupe for Velvet Teddy, that one is a great one to try. For MAC Modesty, the dupe comes from CoverGirl in the shade Sultry Sienna. These two are the same exact color. The only real difference that I feel like is worth mentioning is that the CoverGirl version is a little bit more sheer, so you have to build it up a little bit more, whereas MAC's version is much more pigmented. And CoverGirl's version is also a little bit more shiny compared to Modesty, but other than that, pretty darn close. And I found another accidental dupe. I had no intentions whatsoever of finding a dupe for MAC's Snob because I had found a color that matched it in the last video, and I think that was Revlon's Pink Pout. But I found another color accidentally, so I thought it was worth sharing. The drugstore dupe is Maybelline's Make Me Pink. When you apply these two side by side, you cannot tell the difference between them. They are identical. And when I was having my little swatching party, I had applied them too close to one another, and they ended up running together, and I literally could not remember which one was which. That's how close they are. Last but certainly not least is MAC's Candy Yum Yum. Don't you just love saying that name? Perfect color for spring, and its drugstore counterpart comes from Maybelline in the shade Fuchsia Flash. Very hard to tell these two apart. I would say the finish of Candy Yum Yum is more matte compared to the Maybelline lipstick, which is a little bit more shiny in texture. Other than that, they are so close in color, it really is hard to detect a difference. Speaking of which, those are the two colors that I have been wearing throughout this video. So have you been able to figure out which one is MAC and which one is drugstore? If you guessed that my top lip is MAC and my bottom lip is drugstore, then you would be right. I know it's really hard to tell. If I hadn't applied them myself, I really would not have been able to tell the difference. They are that similar. So I hope this video has helped save you some money if you have been looking at a MAC lipstick but you don't want to spend $15 to get it, and especially for my international friends who pay something like $30, $40 for a MAC lipstick. Insane. Hopefully you can save some money and get a very comparable dupe with this video. Thanks so much for watching, and if you have a dupe that I didn't list today that you have found in the drugstore, please feel free to share yours below as well. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you again next week.